All right, today we're going to dive into the professional playbook for what is, let's be honest, one of the most stressful things any company can go through, a cyber attack. We're going to walk through the official guide for how the pros respond when the worst case scenario actually happens. So just picture it for a second. A data breach hits, alarms are going off, maybe literally, maybe figuratively. Your phone is blowing up. And with every single second that ticks by, the damage is getting worse. In all that chaos, there's really only one question that matters. What on earth do we do right now? Okay, so how do you get from pure panic to an actual plan? Well, it all starts with accepting one core truth of modern cybersecurity. And that is, it's not a matter of if a breach is going to happen, it's a matter of when. Seriously, just acknowledging that reality is the very first step to building a response that actually works. So what exactly are we talking about when we say an incident? Let's get specific here. The official definition is actually way broader than you'd probably think. It's not just some live in-progress hack. It's any violation or even just the threat of a violation. So yeah, a massive ransomware attack totally counts. But you know what else does? A single lost company laptop. The good news is companies aren't just left to figure all this stuff out on their own, thankfully. There's a standardized, globally respected guide for navigating these crises, and it comes from a place called the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or as you'll usually hear it called, NIST. And here it is. This is the official Computer Security Incident Handling Guide, and it's the source for everything we're talking about today. And just so you know, this document, it's the foundation for countless response plans in companies and governments all over the world. It's a big deal. All right, let's crack open this playbook. The whole thing is built around a 4-phase life cycle. First up is preparation. This is all the stuff you do long before an attack ever happens. Then comes detection and analysis. That's when you're trying to figure out what's actually going on. Next, you've got containment, eradication, and recovery. That's the real hands-on, all hands-on-deck response. And finally, there's post-incident activity, which is all about learning from what just went down. Now you'll notice this isn't just a straight line. It's a loop, and that is absolutely key. See, the lessons you learn after an incident happens, they feed directly back into that first preparation phase. The whole goal is to make the organization stronger every single time this happens, creating this cycle of continuous improvement. Okay, so that's the theory, right? But what does this look like in the heat of the moment? Let's break down the anatomy of a real-world response, starting right from that first moment you suspect something is wrong. So the first real active phase is detection and analysis. This is where the response team is basically hunting for clues, or what the guide calls indicators. And these clues can come from pretty much anywhere. You've got automated alerts from your security software, like intrusion detection systems. You've got weird entries in system logs. It could even be something like public news about a brand new vulnerability. Or honestly, it could just be an employee reporting that something feels off. But this creates a huge problem, right? I mean, a big company might see thousands, maybe even millions of these potential indicators every single day. And most of them, they're just noise. So the real question is, how do you find the actual fire in a hurricane of smoke alarms? Well, the playbook gives you a really clear framework for this. And the very first question you ask has nothing to do with the tech. It's about the business. You ask, what is the functional impact? So let's imagine 2 alerts come in at the exact same time. First, the main public website is down. Second, one single laptop in the finance department is acting kind of weird. I mean, the website seems like the obvious priority, right? It's public, it's affecting customers. Okay, but then you ask the next question. You've looked at the operational hit. Now you focus on the data itself. What information was compromised? Well, that public website, it's just marketing material. But that one laptop in the finance department, it holds payroll data, employee social security numbers, all that sensitive personal information. All of a sudden, the priorities start to flip, don't they? And the third and final question is just brutally pragmatic. How hard is this going to be to fix? That website might just need a simple reboot, a 5-minute fix. But that laptop, it could be hit with ransomware. It might need a full forensic investigation and take days of careful recovery work. And just like that, the choice is crystal clear. The small, quiet-looking incident is actually the real emergency. Okay, so we've got a process for figuring out what to work on first. But who's actually doing all this work? It's really easy to picture, a couple of hackers in a dark room with hoodies on. But the reality is completely different. Incident response is a team sport. And that team is way bigger than you probably think. An effective response requires a ton of coordination with people outside the company. The team might be talking to law enforcement, to other security teams, to internet service providers, even to software vendors to get a handle on a new vulnerability. And that same level of coordination is just as crucial inside the organization, too. The incident response team is kind of like the central hub, but it needs really strong connections to all these different departments. You've got to have legal on speed dial for advice, HR if an employee is involved, public affairs to handle the messaging, and of course, you need management to make those big, tough decisions. Okay, so the attack has been stopped, the systems are back online, the immediate crisis is over. You'd think everyone could breathe a sigh of relief, right? Well, according to the NIST playbook, the single most important phase is actually just getting started. And this brings us to that final phase, post-incident activity. And the whole idea here is that the goal isn't just to fix the problem and get back to business as usual. The real goal is to learn from it. This is where teams hold what they call lessons learned meetings to figure out exactly what happened, why it happened, and most importantly, how to stop it from ever happening again. It's about turning a really painful event into a powerful way to get better. And that really brings us to the final critical takeaway from all of this. The entire guide, everything we've talked about, is built on a fundamental shift in mindset. It challenges every single organization to stop thinking about cybersecurity as some kind of perfect wall to keep threats out, and start thinking of it as a capability to respond when, not if, they get in. So the question for your organization isn't if a breach will happen, it's when. And being prepared for that when is everything.